Hello, and welcome to a new episode of From the Honeycomb, a podcast that creates a spark of positive energy. Here we discuss all things architecture and design, to travel, exploring Vastu Shastra with a modern approach, and I connect with other like-minded women to share their story. I am your host, Katerina, and welcome to From the Honeycomb. So today's episode wasn't originally planned, but I didn't end up having enough time to put together all of my notes for today's episode. And then a couple of nights ago, I had a download in the shower that I thought would be more appropriate to share this week instead. A friend of mine who is going through the exams, the architectural ARE exams, recently wrote to me to ask for advice on the exams. As you know, if you've been a long-time listener, these exams are super hard, super long. There's 6 exams statewide. I passed my last exam in the fall, and it took several years because these exams are fucking hard. So it really got me thinking about the advice I would give someone who is going through the exams now, or anyone who is working hard towards something and may feel stuck. So it's a goal, a dream, an aspiration that you have, and you feel like the process you are making isn't tangible. And that's kind of where the download came to me. But let's set the stage as well. A couple of days ago, a manifestation of mine became real. And I had this moment of reflection also this past week about the last few years and how hard I have worked to get where I am today. And so let's mix all of that up, and we have today's episode, which is on the topic of working on your dreams, working on your goals, your aspirations, whatever it is that you are working on right now. And I just want to kind of give you a pep talk today to remind you that if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling alone, those are all valid feelings. And I want to give you this pep talk to kind of let you know that it's okay to feel however you're feeling. And unfortunately, sometimes there is a struggle, but that's not going to define the process for you. This moment that you're having, it's only short term. And so I just want to share some advice on kind of how I got through tough times, challenging times for a goal that I had given myself. It was a goal that took many, many years, and I'm finally on the other side. It has been truly transformative. I've grown so much as a person, and so I really want to share with you kind of some insights to help you today. All right, as we begin every episode, let's take a moment to ground down in the present moment. Before we talk about goals and achieving things, let's really take a moment to ground down and think of something that we are grateful for in the present moment. And for me right now, I am really grateful for some sunshine. We're in the middle of winter. I know I live in Southern California, and it's been really cold here this winter. And I've lived in Chicago. I've lived on the East Coast. I was born in the Czech Republic. I've experienced cold winters, but I just truly haven't been prepared for the winter we've had this year. And before I jumped on to record this recording, I had a call with some friends. We kind of catch up every few weeks just to see how we're doing on a business side and kind of about our Dharma. It's a Dharma group, so our soul's purpose. I just got to sit outside in the sun and just soak up all the warm rays. And I just felt so grateful in that moment that I live somewhere where I can go outside, take a seat, and just have some sunshine in the middle of winter. I'm just so grateful to be living in a place where I have that abundance of sunshine. And I feel like over the last few weeks, I've kind of disconnected from nature, and I've been working on things, going to work and getting things done for the podcast, and just I come home and it's dark and I don't want to be outside. So I feel like this disconnect, but really this weekend I want to take some time to be back in nature, be back in the sunshine, and really be outside because I feel like I'm missing that vitamin D, but I'm so grateful that I live somewhere where it is so abundant. So I'm really very, very grateful for the big sun. Today, I want to speak from the heart. Hopefully, by the end of today's episode, help remind you that you are doing great, that the hard work you are putting in is worth it. Whatever it is that you are working towards will happen, and I believe in you. As someone who always has a list of goals that they're working on achieving, I'm someone who, regardless if the goal is small, like a short-term goal, or I have other goals that have taken years to manifest, I always have something I'm working towards. especially the goal I mentioned earlier in the podcast, which I want to do a quick little plug, is I'm actually going to be a tease about this goal, about this thing that's recently manifested in my life, because I'm not going to be sharing about it on the podcast or on social media. But where I will be sharing about it is on my new monthly newsletter. Yes, I am plugging my new monthly newsletter that's going to come out March 7th, which is my birthday. So I'll provide a link in the show notes for you to subscribe to the newsletter. And on March 7th, you will all be hearing about this big thing that has manifested in my life that I've been working on years. To anyway, stay tuned for the newsletter. It'll all be there. But anyway, let's get back to goal setting. If you've been a listener now for a while, or you follow me on Instagram, then you know that I've struggled a lot to stay positive during my architecture exam process, especially towards the end. No matter how long I meditated for or how many gratitude lists I made, working towards a goal and not really seeing results instantly was extremely discouraging for me. And of course, we now have hustle culture, which is really tough. You'll be hustling, working hard. You see other people on social media that seem to be working harder than you or working just all the hours of the day. And it can be really difficult to remember that what you're seeing is only a snapshot of their time, of the hard work they're putting in. You don't get to see the behind the scenes of the person maybe struggling through the challenges of whatever it is they're working on, because no one wants to post any of really the tough shit. They want to share those happy moments, which I get. And of course, there are people who do show, moments of challenging times. It's definitely we become more transparent with that, but still remembering it's a snapshot. And so that kind of brings me to talking about when you're working on a goal and when you're working towards something and you start to compare yourself to someone. And that can be really difficult because you'll start to compare yourself to someone, and we all do it. I think some of us, are better maybe at setting those boundaries of not being on social media or not, comparing ourselves to other in our industries or in the fields that we're working in. But I'm competitive. I'll admit, I like a little good competition. And so for me, sometimes seeing how others are doing gives me a little like competitive streak to work hard on my goals. But sometimes it can be hard to see someone succeeding at something that you are not succeeding at. And so taking that time and that moment to reevaluate and to really unpack those feelings. That's definitely something I started to do, especially when I was failing exams and just not making any progress. And I would read about people passing on their first try and being like, how can that person do that? Like, I am working so hard over here. I'm putting in the time, putting in the effort, but I'm not seeing the results. And then there's that sense of jealousy that comes up. Really, just now, whenever I sense that feeling coming up, I take a moment and I sit back and I unpack those feelings and think, okay, what is about this that is triggered? And what about this post or this, article that I read or whatever it is that's triggered me? And see if I can take something out of it that will not be positive, but kind of like that fire underneath me a little bit, to be like, okay, that competitiveness to help me see if I can take whatever I'm reading about to encourage me to push harder, to push further, because I know I can do more than I'm doing now. That's sometimes a tool that I've really used when I've found myself going down the rabbit hole of jealousy and comparing myself to other people on social media. But I understand that that can be really hard, and it's definitely takes a lot of training. And of course, I still have my moments. I'm not trying to say I'm, this perfect person who never gets jealous of other people. And it's human nature. And so it's a reminder, and I want it to remind you in this episode, it's okay to feel those feelings, and it's all valid, because whatever it is obviously that you are working on means a lot to you. And the fact that it means a lot to you, that it brings up certain emotions, it's important to you. So of course that is really, it seems like a normal reaction to having those feelings. And so today's episode is about you and your goals and your dreams. So I want to focus on you. So if you are working towards something right now and you don't feel like you're seeing any progress, I want you to take a pause. I want you to take a pause right now, whether it's an hour, day, a week, a month, whatever your schedule allows for you to be able to take a pause, to take a break. Let's evaluate a few things. So I want you to take this time and sit down and reflect on the first moment you started working on this dream, this goal, whatever it is that you're working towards. And do you remember what that person was like when you think back to that past you who decided to pursue this goal? You know, if it helps, write down what you've achieved since that moment and maybe add something to your achievement list. No matter how small, whatever it is, then take a moment to write down those achievements. Could be anything, could be signing up for a software program that you need to learn, anything that you need to have your business starting. Maybe you opened up a bank account. Any little tasks that you've done so far that have gotten you closer to that goal, I want you to write those down now. And you can see you are already closer to that goal than when you first started, when you first sat down and thought, this is a goal that I want to work on. So that's progress. That's so much progress there. And I want you to be really proud of yourself in that moment when you're looking at where you are, because you've already come closer to your goal than you probably thought you were. And so if you're feeling this stuck, you're going around in circles and you're not seeing progress, remember that moment when you first started working on this dream, this project, this goal. Oftentimes when milestones aren't tangible, it's hard to feel like you're seeing progress, that progress is happening. And I can really resonate with that, especially, during my exams. I started to reward myself after each pass with a gift. One exam, I gifted myself once I passed, I gifted myself a beautiful hand-painted kimono. Then the other exam I passed, I got a drum. And it was these tangible gifts I would give myself, even if I did really well on a practice test, or if I beat my previous practice test goal. I would buy myself something tangible. And maybe you resonate with this as well, is sometimes you need tangible things to feel like you're achieving a goal. So for me, with not being able to pass the exams, once I passed the exam, yes, I had passed, but all I saw was a pass on my account. There wasn't anything tangible. I didn't have a piece of paper or a certificate or anything. It was just a pass on my account. And that's when I realized, I said, I am someone who needs something tangible. So one time I did very well on a practice test and I got better score than the previous. And I told myself, if you do better than you did, it's that competitiveness. I even was competing against myself, I guess, kind of, really reflection of for me. And that's kind of why I'm doing this episode today, is because I've had time to reflect on how I work towards the goal that I've achieved now. And it's been really reflective because I have now this toolbox of things that, as I'm starting to achieve, work on towards other goals, I know what to do to make the experience more positive. And if I'm starting to feel stuck, I have these tools in my toolbox. And so these gifts that I would buy myself were really helpful because, as I said, they were tangible and they were more something that I could visualize, I could see. And so I use these gifts as physical milestones for passing my exams because the goal of having my license physically in my hand was still hard for me to imagine. And even though I saw that pass on my profile, it made it easier for me to see the pass in something I could touch. And so maybe that's a reward system you can give yourself. And it doesn't maybe have to even be something tangible. Giving yourself little rewards. Let's say, maybe there's a restaurant you've been wanting to go to, but, you're like, maybe it's kind of out of my budget, or I want to go, but why? Give yourself a task or a goal that you want to achieve and tell yourself, okay, once I do this, X, Y, and Z, and I've done it, then I will reward myself by taking myself out to this restaurant. So that kind of gives you also some sort of momentum to keep going, is once you reward yourself, I think after the reward too, because you're getting this positive reinforcement that you're doing something, it'll propel you to keep doing the next task and the next task. And if you're still feeling stuck, it may be time to reevaluate what you're doing. You may find yourself going in circles, not making progress, backpedaling, one step forward, two steps back kind of a scenario. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you prioritizing this goal? Is this goal one of your top priorities? Where there's that quote, where focus goes, energy flows. And that is so true. And so are you prioritizing this goal? Or because you're not prioritizing it, you're not giving it that time that it needs so that you can achieve or work or complete whatever goal task that you're working on? Or are you giving yourself unrealistic goals? That's something I definitely struggled with by setting myself, you're essentially setting up yourself for failure with that. And that was a few things that I would do throughout studying for these exams is I gave myself too hard of goals that I knew I wouldn't possibly be able to achieve, but I thought, well, if I write it down, maybe I'll achieve it. But in hindsight, it wasn't possible. I didn't have the time to achieve that certain goal. And so you want to make sure that when you're reevaluating if you're stuck, is that you're giving yourself realistic goals. Because why give yourself, unrealistic goals? It's again, you're setting up yourself for failure. And one of the important things too is to let go and don't force something. Sometimes taking a step back, like I mentioned earlier, taking that pause and working on something else can help realign your flow too. So if you feel like you're going in circles, take a moment and do something else. Maybe go for a walk or do something creative, and then come back to whatever it is that you're working on. And if this is a goal you truly want, it really may mean sacrificing certain things in the present in order to make time for your dream to happen. And it's tough. I call this short term pain over long term gain. And this is a quote I was constantly repeating to myself as I studied for my exams, as I worked. I woke up early and I would wake up at 4:30 to study before work. And then I would go to work and I'd come home and I'd be studying. And every weekend I spent studying, and I gave up, birthdays, holidays, Thanksgivings. I gave up 4 or 5 Fourth of Julys that I wasn't able to do anything because I was studying for exams. I had always had an exam in July for 4 to 5 years. And that's hard. That's really, you have to find a support network as well, which is important, that understands what you are doing. And so, unfortunately, sometimes it means, like I said, prioritizing this goal. If this is something that you really want, it may mean that you need to let things go, put a few things on the back burner. It may mean not being able to make a certain trip. It may be not going out, out with friends more often. Of course, for me, what worked the best was actually cutting everything out completely. I actually would put my phone away on weekends because I knew I had to focus so intently. I would tell family and friends, I need to focus. I have an exam coming up. I really want to pass this time. Please respect this boundary that I'm about to set up, and I will reach out to you when I am ready once I've taken the exam. But for right now, I need that space. I need that time to focus on this goal. And that for me really helped. Of course, I understand, social breaks are very important to the process if it is something that you are working on, that it is in such a short time. But it's a short term pain over long term gain, and it may mean giving up certain things for you to be able to make that leap, that jump into the next milestone of your goal. Know that you are not alone in working on your goals, on your dreams. There may be moments of doubt, fear may creep in, but don't let those moments define the process. There's that book or quote, I think it is, that says, feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's the mindset I want you to be in. To just do it, to just go for whatever goal or dream it is that you are pursuing. And if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're going in circles, revisit this episode, come back to it, and maybe you can use some of the tools from my toolbox on achieving goals and on getting work done towards that dream that you have. And I know it might be cliche to say, take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and before you know it, you're going to be there. You will. I believe in you. I trust that whatever goal and dream that you are working on right now will come to fruition, that you will manifest it, and that all of the energy you have put into whatever it is that you are working on will happen for you. I really do. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope some of my tools, my advice has resonated with you as you work towards your goals, towards your dreams. And yeah, I'd love to hear about if there's anything that you are working towards and maybe you want to throw around some ideas on how to get milestones done. Please feel free to reach out to me. I love goal setting. I love to-do lists. I love prioritizing. I love color coding. That is my niche. And so if there's anything I can do to help you with any of your dreams and your goals, I am always here for you to reach out to. So you can DM me or you can email me. I'll provide a link in the show notes for my email. And as I mentioned, I have a special newsletter coming out. First edition will come out March 7th, which is my birthday. And this newsletter will be a monthly newsletter, I'm calling it a spark of positive energy in your inbox. So each month on the 7th, I will be kind of coming into your inbox with some positive news, little update about me personally, things I won't be sharing on social media or the podcast, and some fun intellectual articles from the world of architecture, Vastu Shastra tip, and just a few little things, some fun positive things for you every month. So I'll provide a link in the show notes for you to join that newsletter list. And if you like this episode, please give it a heart or thumbs up and click the follow button so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can follow me on Instagram @FromTheHoneycomb Podcast. Thank you so much and see you next week.